Nigel Farage is out of the jungle and he's not ruling out what's been called a dream ticket, pairing with Boris Johnson. When he was asked if that could happen, Nigel said simply, never say never. But with the Tories on course to lose the general election, could my GBNews colleagues save the Conservatives, or is it simply too far gone? Well, joining us now is former Labour spokesperson James Matthewson. James, welcome to the show. Always a pleasure. Here we are again. It seems that every time the Tories are facing disaster down the barrel, they seem to reach out and expect Nigel to come in and rescue them. Could that work? And should he even entertain the idea in the first place?
Should he entertain the ad? I love the idea that as if it's Nigel's choice, and Nigel will take the job if he wants the job, and that the job's there for Nigel if only he wants it. Nigel Farage has been desperate his entire life to be in the House of Commons, ever since he was a schoolboy when he talked about being inspired by Enoch Powell and other figures. He's wanted to be in politics, and he's been...
We lost him. I think probably that was Nigel pulling the cable. Didn't get off to the most complimentary of starts there, James. We often hear this, don't we? Oh, Nigel never got elected into the House of Commons, but we forget he systematically overhauled the Brexit referendum. He got it on the table in the first place with UKIP, and then in 6 weeks went to a national election win with the Brexit Party. James Matthewson, are you back with us? I think Nigel Farage pulled the cable on you there, James. You're just about getting warmed up to have a pop. So you say Nigel hasn't been elected in the House of Commons, that is true, but he was elected, of course, into the European Parliament and significantly changed the course of British political history by, again, the Brexit referendum on the table and then over the line with the Brexit Party. And, you know, difficult times ask unusual questions. The Conservatives are certainly going through a difficult time, so why rule out a return of someone like Nigel if they are welcome to him being invited in, of course?
Because I don't think there's the stomach for the majority of the Tory party to take this on. Everybody who I speak to from the Tory party and those kind of, more mainstream elements of the party dislike the idea. I'm sure swathes of the membership would love it, but that's because, Nigel Farage is a Conservative member. He's been a Conservative member in the past. He's a Conservative through and through. I mean, that's his politics. So, it wouldn't be unusual for him to represent them. And of course, because of certain niche issues, he's had to come away from the Conservative Party, campaign externally for many, many years to great success. However, if you ask somebody like me why Nigel Farage shouldn't be in mainstream politics, it's because he's dangerous. I believe the man is a dangerous individual. He says dangerous things with the intention of that promoting his own interests, and it leads to dangerous consequences. And that's why I don't believe he should be there. However, if you ask actually the strategist in me whether I would want to see that from behalf of the Labour Party, then run away with it, because I think anybody who thinks Nigel Farage is an electoral success because of Brexit would be entirely wrong. It's nothing to do with Nigel as a person. He campaigned for Brexit and he was very successful on that issue, but that's because the issue of Brexit was successful. It's nothing to do with Nigel as an individual, because we've seen him stand for election so many times and be absolutely thrashed every single time.
But James, I put it to you again that Nigel said himself this morning when he began campaigning on Brexit, it was a fringe element at best that no one had any real interest in, apart from the rump of the Tories in the 1970s. And it was not only put on the mainstream agenda, but the referendum was held, the referendum was won, and British political history has been changed. And Nigel Farage, you don't need to like the guy, but Nigel Farage was the engine of that movement. And in that sense, when we're facing a Tory party now which appears to be directionless, it appears to be divided over Rwanda, over immigration, and here we are again. We're going to be facing an immigration election. Nigel has big ideas on that, ideas that are landing with the Conservatives. I put it to you again, this isn't as outlandish as you may think.
Right place, right time is the story of Nigel Farage's life when it comes to Brexit and that campaign. He was in the right place at the right time. He attached himself to the issue, which I have no doubt that he believes in. I mean, we heard that from comments in the jungle when he was having little scraps and little disputes with, Fred Syriacs and Nella Rose and others about Brexit. I have no doubt the man passionately believes in that. However, when it comes to general politics and representing the rest of Britain, the diverse views that people have in Britain, the man is a public schoolboy from back in the past. He's stuck in a very specific part of British political history. You can see the influences on him. You can see the kind of things he believes in. And I don't believe that's representative of even the modern Conservative Party, when it comes to certain issues. So I just don't see them turning to him unless it's in utter desperation. And of course, they will be facing utter desperation when they're in opposition before long.
Yeah, and James, you're attacking the man a bit. He went to a public school. Well, a lot of politicians did. Keir Starmer is a Sir, he's a QC. These shouldn't be kind of barriers. These are just part of who the people are. But let's get on to Boris Johnson, because we're talking about here a double comeback on the cards. And would you think Boris coming back is a good idea? I suspect I know the answer, but I think we are at a crossroads. The Conservative Party, many people in their membership, many Conservative voters, millions of them, don't think that the current offering chimes with them or speaks to them. They've got to defect to other parties or stay at home altogether. And so at times like this, it's understandable, is it not, to look to former luminaires like Boris who had a proven ability to win.
Understandably, yeah. I mean, there is something that actually I'll agree with you on, that Boris Johnson has a proven track record of winning an election, at least. The man is a moron, in my opinion. The man, I don't believe, post-COVID and seeing the way that he ran the country and the Partygate scandal and various other issues when he was in office, which anybody who's known Boris Johnson for years could have predicted would have happened if he was Prime Minister. But I don't believe that even now after that, the British public would turn to him. Members of the Conservative Party, however, because you have to remember Conservatives are traditionalists. They love things in the past that have happened. They like to look to the past more than they look to the future. And the way that Margaret Thatcher is still fawned over because of her success, isn't dissimilar to the way they're talking about Boris Johnson now. So I would see that being a possibility. Nigel Farage, who campaigned against Tories for years and threw Tories out of their seats and caused disruption within the Tory party. They're going to remember that, and they're going to remember how personal it was during that Brexit referendum. And he didn't, the Conservative Party likes to put the Conservative Party first. Nigel Farage doesn't have a history of doing that. Boris Johnson, more so.
OK, James Matthewson, former Labour spokesperson. We're going to have to leave it there. Thank you for your full and frank and forthright opinions, as ever. That's what we do on this show. We can all disagree, so long as we do it in a good nature.